when I stood up to sing, the church will think something wrong with the pastor or something wrong with the church. But when I see children and young people sing, I really admire and I thank the Lord for the gift that God has bestowed upon them. It is really wonderful to see our children are worshiping with us. The children department has organized certain things that they would like to start children church. I don't know whether it is twice in a year or So I thank for Chelmsford Church. They are planning out for our children and also for young people. And this afternoon we have a Bible study taken by Elder Moses. What's the topic? Did you say the topic? Will you arise for the Master? That's 3 to 4. Then from 4 to 5 we have first AYS this year. Our young people are going to present some programs. I think Tisha is very well planned about it. If you're really concerned about our children and young people, just come along. If you don't bother about them, just don't come. Okay? Because as I'm waiting for God to come, I think it is completely illegal to say, come to church. Because we are ready to see Him. So we should be matured enough to appreciate our children and the young people's program. That's really vital and significant, as we are so much concerned about our children's spiritual, so also their secular life. Thank you, Getsia, for a wonderful song and our children's story, Sister Sharmila, and the rest of this morning's program. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear Lord, you know very well that I'm so weak. And please let your strength complete in my weakness. Your grace is sufficient for us now, dear Lord. And help us to imbued with your mighty power as we open our scriptures to listen what the Holy Spirit says to us. Let no thoughts of our work, of our family, or any of our outside, dear Lord, please help us to focus what Jesus is trying to say, so that when we go out, help us to go out with a handful of blessings. Help us not to leave with empty-handed, O Lord. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Do you know what's the title of the Sabbath? Winning while losing. That is the theme of the year. So it is my privilege to start with this title, Winning While Losing. I thank Elder Carol, who introduced this title during our New Year service. What is winning while losing? And today we are going to see some important aspects that I have encouraged all the leaders as they try to plan out. Let them plan out based on this theme. Because many people are completely discouraged, and many are demotivated, and many are slightly relieving themselves from the commitment, And there are many people who are dissatisfied when they come into church and when they go out. So how we can make the Chelmsford church to win while they lose something? Let me start with beautiful illustration that I was so inspired, which happened last year on August. The ISIS troops captured about 226 Christians from Syria, and they took them as hostages. And they demanded some millions of dollars from Western countries. And they just gave a tape for the leaders to listen. If you want us to leave or release these 226, you have to give us so much amount. Okay? All the Western countries maintain a complete silence of their demands, because that's not international policy to ransom hostage by money. Otherwise, people simply kidnap somebody and demand money. Okay, the Western countries don't encourage that. But however, these people took 226 from Syria who were worshipping on their service day. They came into the church, took 226 from one church, and kept them hostage. And because the Western countries kept silence, they killed 3 people. So 226 became 223. I'm sorry, it's my mistake. From 229 to 226. But there is a priest. You can see them there. What he did, in spite of threats, in spite of warnings, in spite of so much discouragements, in spite of so many policies, he used his Facebook to text young people and the whole world to donate some money to release these people. Because in spite of them, in front of them, 3 people were killed. And nobody's going to remove the dead bodies. The dead body is still lying there. Blood is still bleeding there. And nobody is allowed to wash it. So that these people are so scared. So this bishop, Atheniel, sent the text. So within few days, millions of dollars came to his account, so that he took that money, gave to that ISIS leader, and released 226 hostages. As I was reading this, many people can skeptically justify what he did is right or wrong. But when I was reading, that was not my question. My question was, he was ready to win by losing his life. You know, as we think about the society's situation, people are rapidly discouraged, very sensitive. People are even scared to say something, thinking that sometime they will take it so offensive. People are even say some warning message, so that they are so scared to say that people sometimes think this man is not talking positively. So there are so many things happening in the church and in the society where people are so much concerned and scared. But at the same time, on the other hand, we are all praying, we are all fasting, especially this church taking so much initiative to make people to gather for prayer and fasting. As in the Old Testament, they blew the trumpet, invited the people to gather together to fast and pray, because the Messiah was supposed to come. So how we are going to win and what we are going to lose. And I'm going to give an example of Moses. Moses was a victorious person. I don't know how many of you have studied about the comprehensive story of Moses. Moses was the most outstanding leader. in the whole history of the world since the creation of the world. Moses was the only prophet. Okay, I'm bold enough to say that with the writings of Sister Ellen G. White. Moses was the only prophet who visualized the whole history of the world from his time until Jesus coming. If you just go home, when you have free time, take the book called Patriarchs and Prophets. You take from pages 475 to 477. It says that Sister Ellen G. White writes like that, when Moses was taken to the mountain and he is beholding the country called Canaan or Israel. So as he was gazing at the same time with pain, that he was not able to get in Canaan. So God was watching his face and said, Moses, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you something. I'm just exactly rephrasing what Sister Ellen G. White says in these pages. Moses was beholding the visions that the people of Israel invading Jericho, and they were getting inside the Israel, and they were disobeying the law after that. And Moses was beholding that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And he was watching these three or some few wise men coming to see baby Jesus Christ. And also Moses was beholding that the baby Jesus was taken to Egypt in order to be protected from Pharaoh. And also Moses was beholding 12 disciples' face. Peter. And he was seeing that this gospel was taken to the Gentiles. And he was watching Paul preaching everywhere. Same pages you can see that Jesus was coming from the heaven in the clouds. Moses was seeing everything. So I declared in my notes that he is the only prophet who had the vision of the Old Testament and also the New Testament. What else we know about Moses? He was supposed to be Pharaoh. He was supposed to be Pharaoh. If he did not run, he was supposed to be Pharaoh. We will see it a bit later. Also, who was Moses? Moses was the only person who saw God at his backside. God did not even touch Adam after he became light. But only God, as we say God, Moses was able to see at the back. In fact, in my imagination, only Moses saw God's height and breadth and color, complexion, everything. Only Moses' eyes was able to see, although he was seeing the backside. And in fact, as Moses was standing there, waiting to see God, God gently moved and closed his eyes, and he moved and removed. So I was so eagerly reading this writing in the Bible that Moses was the only person that God, as the Creator, touched Moses. Jesus touched many people, but he was a man. But God himself touched Moses. And he is the only person that God conducted funeral service. He himself buried. He dug a pit, put Moses there, buried him. And he was waited for a while, and God himself opened it, resurrected him. What a privilege. And only Moses got that chance. None others. Because he attained this victory by losing something. Brothers and sisters, suppose if I ask a question, is our church, you and me, are we victorious? If we say yes, what did we lose to get that victory? Are we winning? If we think we are winning, if we say we are winning, what did we lose to win? I'm going to give you a text which was read in the scripture reading time. Take Hebrew. We are going to read Moses. Hebrew chapter 11. All right. Oh, okay. From 24 to 26. And I'm going to give you very briefly three elements that Moses lost or Moses refused in order to win. And so also, it is my prayer and it is my plea for you and even for me that I am ready to lose this in order to win. As long as we have this, we cannot win in the name of Jesus. Okay, let's read it. And because I don't have screen here, let me read it. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. Okay, so wonderful text in Hebrew 11th chapter. Okay, I would like to give you just 3 points. Just check if we have such things in our lives. Number 1, Moses stood as a victorious person. In fact, Jesus, during his life just before the cross, Spirit of prophecy says he was completely discouraged. And God the Father chose just 2 persons to encourage Jesus. Who were they? Elijah and Moses. The entire multitude in heaven and in earth. God did not choose even angel Gabriel. But in order to encourage Jesus, God sent only 2 people on the Mount of Transfiguration, where Moses spoke to Jesus Christ. Many people think, and even Bible says, that he was able to see only Canaan, or the land of Israel, but he was not able to enter. But God permitted Moses to enter into Israel during Jesus' time. Are you with me? Okay? So Moses, he won the race by losing, number 1, pride. Pride. Okay, let's go back to verse 24. Okay, verse 24 says, okay, verse 24, chapter 11, verse 24 says, okay, I would like to read it again. You can even watch. By faith, thank you. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the prince of Egypt. Refused. I like that word. He refused to be called as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. I want to be called as a millionaire. I want to be called, oh, Melki is this and Melki is that and Melki. But Moses, because his target was somehow I have to win and be victorious, he said, I don't want to be. He's completely refused to be called as Pharaoh's daughter's son. He said, this thing, this pride will destroy my focus. So he was winning while he was losing pride. He just refused. I don't want anybody to call me son of the Pharaoh's daughter. Let me ask Dheeraj to screen Patriarchs and Prophets, page 245. Okay? If he has. Okay, I have. Patriarchs and Prophets, okay, page 245 says, at the court of Pharaoh, Moses received the highest Yeah, we need to see the wordings. The highest civil and military training. The monarch or the Pharaoh had determined, which means he decided already in his mind. He has to say it out, pronounce it, that's all. Okay, the monarch had determined to make his adopted grandson his successor on the throne. So after the Pharaoh, Ramses supposed to be the Pharaoh. But the Pharaoh knew very well that's just an adopted son. But because of his highest military and civil knowledge, the Pharaoh or the monarch determined in their mind to make Moses as Pharaoh. Let me speak to you a bit skeptically. If Moses waited for a while, without 40 years wilderness, he could have said, okay, I am the Pharaoh, here is the seal, you all can go back. But Moses refused to be called. Brothers and sisters, there are many families are being destroyed because the pride is not destroyed. Because many friends separated because of the pride. The church still is not progressing as God expected its progress because of pride. Pride saturating some of our hearts. We are not able to just compromise because of this pride. Book of Acts chapter 7 verse 22 says, Moses was educated in all the wisdom of Egyptians and was powerful in speech and action. I'm reading from Bible. Okay, Acts chapter 7 verse 22 says, and Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and actions. In spite of this, he refused to call as a wise man. He refused to call as the prince. He was refused to be called as the next Pharaoh because he wants to win his race. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand pride goes before what? Destruction. A beautiful Lucifer became devil and dragon because of pride. Mighty king became animal for 14 years because of pride. And you and me are able to win because of pride. Unless and until we lose the pride, we cannot win the race. You know, when I started my pastoral life in 1989, I used to write my sermon in the graveyard. I used to go there, sit on somebody's graveyard, and I used to write sermons in the Bible and notebook. Okay? And I used to read the gravestones inscription. I liked it very much. Many times I used in my early days those quotations, and now I would like to use this after many years. I watched a few, and here one says, raised 4 beautiful daughters with only 1 bathroom, and still there was love. That's a mother's graveyard. She raised 4 daughters with 1 bathroom. I don't know how many of you feel. Okay, it is very hard to raise 4 daughters with 1 bathroom. There must be some commitment, there must be some love, there must be some understanding, okay? But still, there was love. Why? Because there is no pride. I am first, I am last, you, he, she, nothing. There is one more thing, okay? I can't say, let me go there. Okay, to the person passing by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, you soon will be. Prepare yourself. See, as long as the breath is here, anyway, one of my nostril is stopped. Because, okay, as long as we have breath in my nostril, we can say, I have this, and I have that, and she is this, and once it stopped, and that's it. You are dust. You are dust. People are in the graveyard giving us a message, although they are dead. whoever is passing by, I was once like this. But now, I'm here. But you will be very soon. So prepare yourself. Pray for me. Of course, you don't believe in that. But however, pride stops our victory. We need to be very, very careful. Okay, let me go to the second one. What Moses lose in order to win? What's number one? Pride. Number two, as we read in the text, Moses was winning while he was losing pleasures of sin. What is pleasure of sin? So I tried to use some different translation. One translation says unwanted delight. Unwanted delight. Another translation says physical delight. Okay, let me read the verse. Verse 25. Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasure of sin for a season. You know about Egypt very well, even today. It is a land of pleasure. Just to bury their king, they constructed a big pyramid. And when they bury the king, they also kill some soldiers and bury along with them. And gold, silver, golden daggers, and golden chariots, everything they will bury them, so that after life, after death, there is a life. So our king should be born as what? King. So soldiers should be there, wealth should be there, chariots should be so. So they just bury one person in that pyramid. You can see how luxurious they were living. So Moses, as a prince, as a son of the daughters of Pharaoh, had everything to enjoy. In terms of dress, in terms of food, in terms of palaces, in terms of so many things. But he refused to enjoy the pleasures of sin. Okay, Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, let us not conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove that what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Brothers and sisters, just let's talk to ourselves. What are the things, unwanted pleasures that we are having in our lives so that we are not able to win? Because many times we are focusing our own pleasure. There is no person for table ministry in town center. Many times the leaders have asked, we want 4 people for table ministry, hardly 2. Where are the rest? In fact, we have at the moment 141 members. And we have 5 people who are given their transfer membership. They are going to be in very soon. Going to be 150. Hardly 2 people just to distribute, standing in one place. Why? Because many of us are spending, enjoying our own pleasures. Soup kitchen. That notice has become a permanent notice there. We want volunteers. We want volunteers. We want volunteers. Just 2-3 hours on Sunday. Door-to-door evangelism, church cleaning. When we talk about reverence, what Paul says in Philippians chapter 3 verse 7, I once thought, okay, this is what Paul says in Philippians chapter 3 verse 7, I once thought these things are valuable, but now I consider them worthless because of what Christ has done for me. Because most of the time, we are thinking about our own pleasure. Let me give an example about Jode Pedley. I don't know how many of you have heard it, but he's quite unfamiliar. But however, his story is so blessing to hear. John Pedley. Okay? He was a millionaire here in England. Okay? I tried to pronounce that village, but I couldn't, so I'm not going to do that. Okay. Okay. So he is the millionaire. In fact, he studied in Oxford University how to sell wine. He did PhD in that. How to sell wine. So, even in 35 years old, he started a company, a factory, where they produce wine. Millionaire in England. He is 41 now. He met with an accident. Doctor said, we are very sorry, all the organs are shutting down. He will die. But he had a vision. Or he had what should I say? Somebody is talking to him. Don't worry. You will be okay. But with the surprise of the doctor, after a few days, okay, he was okay. And what he did, he sold all his possession, property, everything for the people of Zimbabwe. He went there and tried to work with the people. My life is completely nothing. What is there to be happy for the unwanted delight? So he gave all the money and began to work with the Zimbabwe. And finally, even now, he is now in the 16th century hut. That's the house that he is living in. A multi-millionaire born England is living even now, sold all his wealth for the people of Zimbabwe, working with them. And finally, he is living in the 16th century hut. Who are we? What are we doing on this earth? What did we lose to win? What did we lose to win? Okay, I have another few minutes. Let me finish it. James White was the, what do you say, that people who are working on the maintenance of the railway track. Okay, if the screw comes out, they will say, they call it gangman. I wanted to say, but you should not misunderstand gangman. Okay, so he used to take rod in order to just fix the rod so the train can go properly. So that's the work James White was doing. And Joseph Bates, okay, Joseph Bates was the retired ship captain. And of course, Sister Ellen G. White was a teenage girl. Okay, right? See, whenever James White took a break, these two people would be waiting for him to finish his work. So the three went under a bridge. So Joseph Bates always had a hat. So he took it. How much we have? Because we have 4 pages of present truth to be printed. How many pages? 4 pages. They did not have money. So they checked all these pockets in home and everywhere. Finally, they got only 80 cents. In our money, probably 52 pence. That's all they had. They put that money in that hat. Lord, this 3 angels' message should be preached to this world. Please help us. I'm talking about in 1844. In hat, only 80 cents. That's the beginning of mission work. They lost all their pleasure, unwanted delight. But they wanted to win. Somehow this message has to be preached all over the world. With 80 cents, they printed first 4 pages of present truth, which is the 3 angels' message. And today, we are all happy. I'm so privileged to preach with Rose, acknowledging that I will be a part of Sabbath school evangelism. But these 3 people, 1844, with 80 cents, that's all they had, home in their pockets. And during their break, they used to pray under the bridge. Brothers and sisters, Moses refused to enjoy the pleasures of unwanted delights. Number 3, and let me finish it. Number 3, Moses lost the present joy in order to win the greater joy. Okay, let me go to the text and read verse 26. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked toward what? The reward. He did not want to enjoy the present pleasure or present joy. See, all this joy is just very temporary. Some people are so focused, concentrating on this temporary. I'll give an example. It may be a controversial illustration, but let me give you an example. How many people are just wasting on the temporary joy. Okay, for example, I went to attend a birthday a prayer meeting. The person who was standing next to me, Pastor, do you know why they blow off the candles during the birthday party? You know, we have cake and candles. Why they blow off? I have done to my children. People have done to me many times. Okay, then I said, I don't know. I said, let's do some research about it. So I went there, took some papers to study some articles and things. Why they blow the candles during birthday? It was so shocked to me when I read it. About 3,000 years ago, it was Greeks' belief that when they blow the candle, they're passing their desire to the moon god called Artemis. I have done to my children, and I have prayed many things. Even I have clapped. But just recently, I was just going through why they blow the candles during the birthday, which is on the cake. Okay, then I thought, okay, this is wrong article. No, I can't. Then I took no, this is... Every article does say it is the Greek mythology and belief that they are passing their desire to the moon god Artemis so that he will approve the desires. That's why they blow it. I was quite shocked. But however, my point now is, because we are spending much time on the present joy, whereas there are plenty of things that we have to concentrate on the future reward. Because we are spending so much time and money and pleasure and days because of the temporary things, we are losing the focus of victory. But Moses was completely concentrating on winning while he was losing all these things. And he was standing on the Mount Nebo. God gave the privilege. Moses, because you wanted to win, you lost so many things. You lost the pleasure in Egypt. You were looking for the greater reward. I'm going to show you before you close your eyes. All the things. You are going to see Paul. You are going to see Peter. You are going to see John. You are going to see how I'm going to give a revelation to John. Everything I'm going to show you. And the pages that I gave you in Prophets, Patriots and Prophets, 225 to 277, Moses was able to behold every single thing until Jesus comes. Is there anything that you have to lose to win? Let's decide. And that's my challenge and prayer. God bless you.